You're able to see?
Just a minute, sir.
Right.
Sharing ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಏನು
She's not able to see that.
Share screen ಅದು
ಅಲ್ಲ ಮೊದಲು ನೀವು ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡಿ ಪವರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿ.
ಪವರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡಿದೀನಿ ಆಗ್ಲೇ ನೋಡ್ದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಇವಾಗ ಯಾಕೆ ಅದು ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹುಡುಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಸರ್. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಅ ಮಿನಿಟ್.
So with that PowerPoint background, when you open the
correct, I am there now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's coming. Yes, good.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Just move one and see. Okay, go back. That's good. So we have.
Yeah, it is moving. Yeah.
We have 2 minutes, and we'll start.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Nagaraj. You're muted.
Patil Re, namaskara.
Namaskara. Nice to see you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Nagamani.
How are you, sir?
First class. I specifically came to hear you.
Sir, thank you so much.
Why?
Good evening, Kasturi.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the webinar of this Manipal Hospital Cardiology Department. Now it is a pleasure that we have an eminent cardiologist from Jayadeva Institute to speak to us. So I hand over the proceedings to Dr. C.V. Patil.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to all my colleagues as well as the postgraduate students for this academic program. Dr. Nagamani is going to speak on affirming the importance of treating iron deficiency in heart failure. As you know, Dr. Nagamani is a professor of cardiology and head of the teaching unit in Jayadeva Institute of Cardiology. She has graduated from Mysore Medical College, both in MBBS as well as MD. Then she did DM in cardiology from Jayadeva Institute of Cardiology, Bangalore. As I know, I think she's a gold medalist in MBBS days, and she's famous from those days as a bright student, as well as she has proved even as a unit chief and professor now also, and she has participated in national and international conferences also, and presented papers, and she has spoken in many occasions, both in the CSI and ICC conferences, and she's a very good speaker. I now request Dr. Nagamani to speak on affirming the importance of iron deficiency in heart failure. Nagamani?
Sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody, respected teachers and my dear colleagues. The topic for today's evening, as it was given to me, it was intravenous iron therapy in chronic heart failure. But I think the topic heading has been changed now, but it's okay. I'm going to cover both chronic and acute. As we know, anemia is a frequent comorbidity in patients with heart failure, as it is known to increase morbidity and mortality, and it is also a cause for recurrent hospitalizations. So basically increased morbidity in the form of impaired functional capacity or exercise capacity, and they have a poor quality of life. And there is clear-cut evidence that iron deficiency is an important comorbidity, but often ignored, or it is considered only in the presence of anemia. So if there is no clinical anemia, or if the hemoglobin values are normal, it is not given much importance. So historically, clinicians have focused on the effect of inadequate iron supply on erythropoiesis and the resulting risk of anemia. But one should also understand that iron is essential for proteins involved in cellular oxygen storage and generation of cellular energy in skeletal muscles and myocardium. Myocardial tissue has been shown commonly to have reduced iron content in heart failure. So it's just not the value, hemoglobin value we are looking at, but it is also the metabolic activity contributed by iron. So iron is mainly important for tissues with high energy demand like myocardium and skeletal muscle, and tissues with high mitogenic activity, that is erythropoietic tissue. It plays a key role in oxygen uptake, transport, and storage, and oxidative metabolism in the skeletal muscle. So is this the cause for the common symptom of heart failure, that is fatigue? Iron deficiency can lead to impairment of mitochondrial energy metabolism before it leads to impaired hematopoiesis. So before we see low hemoglobin level or clinically anemia, patient may complain of fatigue, and that could be because of the metabolic activity with which iron is involved. Iron deficiency in patients with or without anemia attenuates aerobic performance and is accompanied by reports of fatigue and exercise intolerance. Traditionally, it has been considered to have clinical consequences only in the presence of anemia. This point I would like to stress. Alternatively, a reduced hemoglobin level can be viewed as the end result of a process beginning with the gradual depletion of iron stores. So what is the prevalence of anemia in heart failure? Prevalence basically depends on population studied and the definition of anemia used. There is variability of definitions, and as we know, anemia is more common with female patients. Whether anemia is, heart failure is acute or chronic, whether dilutional anemia is present because of fluid retention is also important. And anemia is more prevalent in advanced age women, renal dysfunction, and with low functional capacity. Most studies report incidence of prevalence of anemia to be more than 20%. Large meta-analysis involving more than 1.5 lakh patients has reported a prevalence of around 30%. And mortality, increased mortality is demonstrated both in heart failure with reduced ejection fraction and even with heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. So prevalence of iron deficiency in heart failure is more often in anemic patients as compared to non-anemic patients. So in a study, it is reported to be 61 versus 45%. But one should understand that iron deficiency is much more prevalent than anemia. So if we look at the prevalence, it varies from 10 to 70%, 10% to 70%, depending on, as I've already mentioned, the definition and the various studies. But generally, around 30% in inpatients and 20% in outpatients. Do we have any Indian studies? Yes, there is a study from Rajasthan involving 150 patients where iron deficiency was demonstrated in 76% patients. 48% of them had absolute iron deficiency and 27% had functional iron deficiency. I will come to what is functional iron deficiency as I go on. And females were significantly higher than males, 91% versus 68%. So overall, about 1/4 of the patients having iron deficiency had no anemia. So one should also understand that prevalence of anemia is more as there is deterioration of the functional class. If we look at this is NYHA class 1 as compared to this is NYHA class 4. So if we look at the green curve where hemoglobin is a green bar, 12.5, less than 12.5. In NYHA class 4, this is maximum. So with deterioration of the functional class, severity of anemia and the prevalence of anemia is also more. This is again reflected here in this. This is NYHA class 4 patient where you have iron deficiency with anemia, and also you have iron deficiency and no anemia, which is more common as compared to NYHA class 1 where you have more of iron deficiency, no anemia, and anemia is less. So what is the pathogenesis of anemia in congestive heart failure? If we look at the simple diagram, with reduced cardiac output, there is reduced renal perfusion. Reduced renal perfusion, there is activation of renin-angiotensin system, which gives rise to volume overload. There is hemodilution. So dilutional anemia with reduced cardiac output and reduced renal perfusion. As we know, heart failure is like a inflammatory condition where there is release of pro-inflammatory cytokines, which reduces the bone marrow response. 40 to 50% of the heart failure patients also have associated kidney disease, which suppresses erythropoietin secretion and suppresses the bone marrow response, resulting in reduced RBC production, which contributes to anemia. So to understand the iron metabolism, we need to know few basics. I know this is very basic, but I'll take just 2 minutes to explain the basics of iron metabolism. You have two body proteins, that is transferrin and ferritin. As we know, transferrin carries iron in blood and other body fluids, and ferritin stores iron. It's a protein which stores iron in tissue. So it's an indicator of iron store in the body, indirect indicator. And we have one transferrin receptor, and these two proteins, ferroportin and hepcidin, are important to know in iron metabolism, because hepcidin is said to be the master regulator of systemic iron metabolism. It is nothing but a peptide hormone which is produced in the liver and released via the action of interleukin 6. So as we know, in heart failure, interleukin 6 is released as an inflammatory marker. So hepcidin levels go up initially in heart failure, then there is down regulation. What this hepcidin does is it binds to ferroportin, it blocks absorption of iron in the intestines, and it traps the iron in macrophages. So basically, we have iron in the body, but it is not available for erythropoiesis. So there is decreased iron delivery to marrow, bone marrow, because this hepcidin, it causes trapping of iron in the reticuloendothelial system. So according to the WHO definition, in men less than 13 gram is described as anemia, and less than 12 gram per deciliter in women as described as anemia. We have other definitions as well, but we will just stick on to WHO definition. So serum ferritin is the best indicator of iron stores, as I've already told. But we do know that ferritin is an acute phase reactant. Levels increase very rapidly in inflammatory states. And we have done ferritin for most of the patients during COVID times, and there's a lot of importance given to it. So as an acute phase reactant, ferritin levels go up. So we cannot rely on low ferritin levels to diagnose iron deficiency. But transferrin is less affected by changes in iron metabolism. It is also affected, but as compared to ferritin, it is less affected. So when there is decrease of transferrin iron saturation, it indicates what is called the functional ID. So we have normal ferritin stores, but it is not available for erythropoiesis. So European Society of Cardiology, it has recommended a systematic measurement of iron parameters in all suspected heart failure patients and in follow-up visits. What does it recommend? It recommends serum ferritin and transferrin saturation. So what is this transferrin saturation? It is a lab value basically. We are calculating transferrin saturation as serum iron divided by total iron binding capacity. So we define iron deficiency as absolute when we have serum ferritin which is less than 100. So when ferritin is less than 100, we know that patient has some blood loss or some cause for anemia, and iron stores are definitely less. But when we have ferritin ranging from 100 to 299 or 300, so we get carried away by this. So this iron levels are normal, but actually it is not available. So you have saturation which is less than 20%. This is called functional iron deficiency. Even though it is available in the body, it is not available for metabolic activity. As compared to a healthy people, look at the levels which is defined for anemia. So with no apparent disease, ferritin level of less than 20 for females and less than 30 for males. But in heart failure, the values are different, as we have seen, less than 100. So various definitions have been given by various organizations. In major study, ferritin of less than 100 was considered, that is FAIR-HF trial, and WHO defines it as less than 15, and there are different definitions. So as I have already mentioned, absolute iron deficiency, it could be the result of low iron consumption. Gut edema and reduced gastrointestinal blood flow may impair iron absorption. Around 40 to 50% of heart failure patients have associated chronic kidney disease. Heart failure patients get commonly prescription of antiplatelets and anticoagulation. They may be having some bleed, especially GI bleed. One more point I would like to bring to your attention is that the AC inhibitors or ARBs are known to suppress erythropoietin. So they can also contribute to some extent. And inflammatory markers also suppress the erythropoietin, or the bone marrow suppression happens. Of course, in third world countries, it most important is nutritional anemia. This is called the functional iron deficiency, nothing but this is anemia of chronic disease, which I have already explained. So how it is important, iron deficiency? We say iron deficiency with heart failure is a bad combination. Look at the survival curves, very significant p-value. It has been demonstrated in various studies that survival is reduced with iron deficiency. Again, look at the outcomes. Iron deficiency remains an independent predictor of mortality in both anemic and non-anemic patients. This is reported in American Heart Journal in 2013. This is no anemia, but there is iron deficiency. Anemia with iron deficiency, look at the hazard ratios. So there are various trials which have demonstrated that anemia increases in increased rehospitalizations for heart failure. And what happens to quality of life? Definitely there is data. Patients with chronic heart failure experience a notable impairment of their quality of life, and this self-reported outcome is strongly determined by iron deficiency, regardless of how iron depletion affects the levels of hemoglobin. So are we looking at iron as therapeutic target in heart failure then? Yes. So initially, like as students a few years back, we were not aware of this parenteral iron for anemia correction in heart failure. We were still prescribing oral iron. So what is the present scenario as far as oral iron is considered? The lack of trials showing benefits of using oral iron. And as we know, oral iron is not tolerated well, a lot of gastrointestinal side effects. Food and some medications also interact with iron absorption, and non-adherence is noted because of this. There is one major study that's called Iron Out study, which tried oral iron in heart failure. It's a negative trial. This is basically what happens, as I have told, there is impeded, or the gastrointestinal absorption of the iron doesn't happen because of this elevated hepcidin levels. So it is not available for erythropoiesis. That could be the reason. That is what the reason. Whereas intravenous therapy of iron, it bypasses this and directly reaches the blood, and then the bone marrow takes it up. So earlier, as we know, iron infusion or intramuscular iron injection or intravenous iron injections were not very popular, as it used to be associated with more adverse effects, and anaphylaxis was also known. So what is special about the present day preparations, or the preparations which are available? There are many parenteral preparations which are available, but the most popular one is ferric carboxy maltose. So the present day preparation, basically, as we know, they are all colloids, but iron is in a core surrounded by a carbohydrate shell, which influences the molecular size, pharmacokinetics, and adverse reaction profiles. The major trials of parenteral iron in heart failure has been done with this compound, ferric carboxy maltose. There are few trials with iron sucrose preparation, but they are very small trials, and all the major trials are with ferric carboxy maltose. This compound is more stable, there is slower degradation, and we can give high single dose, 1 or 2 doses may be sufficient for repletion of the iron stores. There is rapid replenishment. Uptake by the marrow is in the first 10 minutes. It starts in the first 10 minutes, and there is subsequent slow update, and there is steady uptake of iron and no test dose required. So very minimal adverse reactions. So this is a consensus recommendation which is recommended for the iron therapy. When patient has symptomatic heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, NYHA class 2 to 3, all the studies have been for NYHA class 2 to 3. And the hemoglobin is less than 15. And if the ferritin level is less than 100, or if it is functional iron deficiency, then we have to consider IV iron. So what are the major heart failure trials with IV iron? These are the 3 major heart failure trials with iron therapy. This is all in chronic heart failure. FAIR-HF, CONFIRM-HF, and maximum patients have been studied in FAIR-HF trial, 459 patients. They were in NYHA class 2 to 3 with ejection fraction of reduced ejection fraction below 40%. Hemoglobin ranging from 9.5 to 13.5. Here, there were 2 doses. One was correction, what was called as correction dose, which was given weekly, 200 milligram weekly for 4 weeks or until the iron status normalized. Then there was maintenance dose, and study period was 24 weeks. And basically, they looked at the symptomatic state of the patient and the functional class. That were the primary endpoints. Whereas in secondary endpoint, they looked at the 6-minute walk test and the health of quality of life indicators. Whereas in CONFIRM-HF, they also looked into the biomarkers to understand the severity of the heart failure. And The main advantage in the CONFIRM-HF trial is they did not give weekly iron injections. It was basically a larger dose, single dose, or a second dose within first 4 to 6 weeks. Subsequently, 500 milligram every 12 weeks. This was the dosage which was used, and this was a longer study, around 1 year. Basically, they looked mainly at the 6-minute walk test. It's a more objective thing. They did not just go by the symptomatic improvement. They looked at the 6-minute walk test and, of course, the functional class and then the quality of life indicators. In effect HF, they looked at more objective evidence, peak oxygen uptake. So they looked at more objective evidence of improvement along with the 6-minute walk test and the functional class and the symptomatic improvement. They also followed the CONFIRM-HF regimen of initial larger doses followed by maintenance dose if required. These were the 3 major trials. So this is a FAIR-HF trial. So patient global assessment at week 24 and NOHA class at week 24. If you look at the global assessment, around 50% of the patients who received IV iron, they had improvement in the symptoms as compared to 28%. And there was improvement in the functional class, 7% as compared to 30% who received placebo. So they concluded that ferric carboxymaltose for a period of 24 weeks in patients with chronic heart failure with iron deficiency with or without anemia showed improvement in symptoms, functional capacity and quality of life. No additional side effects. In CONFIRM heart failure study, as I have already told, it was a study which lasted for longer duration using larger single dose. This I have already explained. So they studied more objective primary endpoint. They documented longer term sustainability, reduction of hospitalization. There was significant risk reduction of the hospitalization, and this is more practical. So it is more practical to give larger iron doses, 1 or 2 doses, rather than calling the patients for weekly doses. So this I have already explained. FAIR-HF patient global assessment and NOHA functional class, CONFIRM-HF 6-minute walk test. Whereas in EFFECT-HF study, how it was different. So basically they looked at the change in weight adjusted peak VO2 from baseline. So what did they conclude? In symptomatic patients with heart failure and iron deficiency, over 6-month period, they noticed a significant improvement in peak VO2 compared with standard of care arm with or without anemia. So these findings confirm and extend the results of FAIR-HF and CONFIRM. And all the 3 major trials, there was no major side effect as such. So based on this, for clinical recommendation, this is better. That is, according to CONFIRM-HF and EFFECT-HF. So for our patients, this regimen is more patient friendly. 500 to 1000 milligram single doses, correct iron deficiency, check ferritin and saturation within next scheduled visit, then use a maintenance dose of 500 milligram. Every 3 months to 4 months based on this thing. Up to 1 year we can continue. There are large meta-analysis trials which are also which have shown that there is reduced all-cause death and reduced cardiovascular hospitalization and reduced rehospitalization for. So these trials I have already told you, it is looked at symptoms, quality of life and functional capacity. So, but we need trials which look at reduction in the morbidity and the mortality. These are the trials like FAIR-HF2, which is looking at whether there is any mortality benefit. HF is is over. HF2 result is awaited in the next year. And AFFIRM AHF is in acute heart failure. The results are already out. What did they do in AFFIRM AHF? AFFIRM AHF trial compared cardiovascular outcomes and safety with carboxymaltose versus placebo at discharge when they had stabilized acute heart failure patients. Patients were admitted and treated for heart failure. And if they noticed iron deficiency at the time of discharge, patients received iron infusion. So what did they conclude? After an episode of acute heart failure, treatment with IV iron compared with placebo results in clinically meaningful beneficial effects on quality of life as early as 4 weeks after treatment initiation, lasting up to week 24. So we have trials which have used, these are the blue ones, they have used FCM, that is ferric carboxymaltose in their studies. As I have told, the major trials have been with ferric carboxymaltose. Sucrose, we have trials, but they are all small trials. And this is a trial which is happening with derisomaltose. This compound is being. So these are the ongoing trials. There is a trial which is being conducted to see whether it has beneficial effect in preserved ejection fraction category. You notice the major trials have been with ferric carboxymaltose. What is the recommendation from ESC and American Heart Association? As per ESC recommendation, intravenous FCM should be considered in symptomatic patients with reduced ejection fraction and iron deficiency in order to alleviate heart failure symptoms and improve exercise capacity and quality of life. This is 2A recommendation. Whereas American Heart Association, it is 2B recommendation. So they say it is reasonable to improve functional status and quality of life. So what are my take-home messages? Majority of heart failure patients have associated anemia as a comorbidity. Multiple mechanisms are involved in the origin of disordered iron homeostasis. There is ample evidence to show that iron deficiency is associated with increased morbidity and reduced survival. Guidelines recommend the monitoring of iron parameters for all patients with heart failure. And IV iron therapy is shown to improve functional capacity, quality of life, and reduce hospitalizations for recurrent heart failure. But well-designed trials and are required to study this further, and there are ongoing trials which may provide further information on heart failure hospitalizations and cardiovascular mortality. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nagamani, for your lucid speech on this subject. I think her message is very clear. Almost 10 to 70% of the heart failure patients can have an associated anemia, which has to be confirmed by hemoglobin percentage, serum iron levels, transferrin saturation. And when they are in that particular range, what she has already described, then only you can administer the intravenous iron therapy. And the latest AFFIRM HF trial, what she noticed in the acute heart failure at the time of discharge, again confirming with the same parameters, you can also administer the iron, especially it is a iron dextrose maltose only, and very few trials have sucrose preparations also. And regarding the heart failure preserved ejection fraction, I think still the verdict is not clear. The trials are being undertaken, and probably we may have to wait for some more time to confirm. Probably we can, the same message may come, that's what I feel, in with the parameters being applied, and these are some of the what she has already told regarding the this why there is a difference between the American guidelines. They have put 2B and the European has put 2A. Why do you think that difference is there?
Difference is always there between European guidelines and American guidelines.
See, what I was going through the literature.
Yes,
This
sir.
whatever cutoffs have been taken,
Yes,
they
sir.
hold good for about 70% of the patients, and
Yes.
they do not reflect completely the bone marrow iron levels. That's
Yes.
what they are telling. And,
Yes, sir.
and of course, in some inflammatory conditions, the user has said ferritin levels are also quite high.
Hi.
At that time, probably now they are telling the hepcidin levels have to be taken
Yeah.
for
And there are
treating
two other things, sir.
Yeah.
They are recommending the calculation of reticulocyte
Yeah.
and
I
and transferrin levels,
Yes.
transferrin receptor levels. That is also recommended, but how applicable in the clinical scenario is questionable.
Yeah, definitely. I fully agree with you because these are the practical ways how we can confirm and we can treat the patients. And as you said, it has to be followed up every 3 months with measurements of these parameters and to continue the therapy at least up to 1 year as per the trials.
Yes,
Now I
sir.
request my Professor Iyengar, Dr. Desai, because there are no questions in the chat box as I could see.
Yeah. Dr. Nagaraj, any comments from your side?
Actually, thanks, Dr. Nagamani, first of all, for that very, very kind of educative session on this anemia and heart failure. The question raised by Dr. Patil, I had my own thoughts about it. Look, the hard endpoints are still to be proven. Rightly, American College felt that you could keep it as a class 2A rather than class 1, simply because it is a soft data which Europeans are trying to hang on to recommend it as a class 1A. So it is quite likely that class 2B rather, class 2B. In other words, the endpoints will decide what will be the recommendation levels, not just the kind of improvement in certain p-values, and that is my take on that particular aspect. And
Definitely,
several of these molecules in the pipeline as research tools may eventually become part of our clinical practice, depending upon how exactly the industry wants us to learn from these studies. And as you've seen, troponins and BNPs, and you have several examples where cardiologists have started learning or relearning how to use these molecules in our clinical practice. Thanks for the nice presentation. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nagaraj. I think there are a few questions, Dr. Nagaraj, in the chat box. Madam, FCM is costly and less available. I don't think so. It is that expensive, is it right?
It's around 3,000 rupees. Yes, definitely. That's limitations. 500 milligram is around 3,000 rupees.
But I think the amount of benefit the patient gets, I think, is one. We can also use iron sucrose.
Yes. Clinical evidence, iron sucrose is also beneficial, but the data or the clinical evidence is limited with sucrose. The major trials have been with carboxymaltose.
Yeah. And already existing comorbidity and risk of allergic reaction, does it limit its use in heart failure?
Sir, adverse reactions, the present day preparations are very, very minimal.
Yes. We hardly seen
it is a big advantage with the present day preparations because we use it commonly in Jaydeva for our patients. And so far I have not seen any major adverse reaction at all.
Yes.
Literature is there, but personally also,
Yeah.
it is being commonly used for our patients. We have not seen even minor side effects. We have not seen.
That's right. You can give it as outpatient, just give him watching.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely.
Send him
They can
out.
just take it in outpatient as half an hour or 1 hour infusion and go back home.
Back home.
After waiting for
Yes,
30 more minutes, they can go.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, these are the questions, and the question raised by Patil, I think, American versus Europeans, as Dr. Nagamani mentioned, there are always differences. See, what we need to, we can't see at the hard end point like cardiovascular death. Death is not the only important point in life. Quality of life is very important. Heart failure hospitalization is very important, and they have definitely reduced both these with IVIM therapy. I think it's a bit slow to uptake this message.
Yeah, I think they are waiting for much more evidence, stronger evidence.
I think there's enough evidence to last 2 years.
Maybe
Yeah,
with the future trials.
I don't
Yeah.
think it will ever come. I don't think it will ever come. And there'll be so many, kind of cogwheels.
So what is important? What is important message is it should be one of the treatment targets, iron deficiency. If somebody has, please correct it. I'm sure it will benefit, because not only the cardiac muscle, it also involves skeletal muscles.
Yes.
You can see the almost improvement within few days. Patient feels better. So that is very important part of life. Quality of life is very important. So now recently there are studies which they have done this IV iron in patients who are on CRT with persistently low ejection fraction, less than 45%. And they have seen that those who receive IV iron, there is incremental reverse remodeling in these patients. So it is definitely beneficial. If deficiency rate must be corrected. Then, as she mentioned, the favorable or favored biomarkers will remain at present ferritin and transferrin saturation, because it is easy to calculate. It's very rare situation that there can be discordance between ferritin and transferrin saturation, because ferritin is an inflammatory marker, it might go up, but transferrin will not go up. So there may be, but at present, as Dr. Nagamani mentioned, measuring receptors, then reticulocyte, hemoglobin content, are available only in advanced labs and not for clinical use. So I don't think we should depend on, and we can't assess the iron deficiency in clinical vacuum. We must see the whole picture of the patient, say heart failure patient. Does he have iron deficiency? There is no problem. We should. So that is important. And so these have to be implemented. As Dr. Nagamani said, anemia, iron deficiency, they are different. Patient can be having iron deficiency without anemia. So in all patients, even with hemoglobin between 8 and 15 grams, up to 15 grams, you should assess iron, that is ferritin, iron transferrin saturation, before you complete the evaluation of your heart failure patient. So I think the message is quite important. These are treatment targets. Iron deficiency is a treatment target. So measure ferritin and transferrin saturation in our patients. And the other thing which we usually do not do is a 6-minute walk. It's very difficult to introduce these tests, which are very cheap, which have got a lot of value, limitation, but they're very important tests. So the other things which you have to introduce in your clinical practice. Thank you very much. That was an excellent talk. Very simple, very clarified, simple.
Thank you, Nagamani, for the excellent talk. And I think the American guidelines is 2016. I think the latest guidelines, they may be able to include it. That's what latest is the ESC, I think, 2017.
2016 is ESC, sir. Latest American guidelines, there is no comment on this.
No comment.
Additional clinical evidence, any new evidence comes up, probably.
They may be able to. Latest guidelines, they may include this. Definitely.
In fact, Professor McMurray has made a statement that I hope now at least the ACC will change the recommendation.
Yeah.
The last week he has made a comment.
There are some trials of the oral iron formulations
No.
being changed. They are also being undertaken.
No.
Sucrosomal iron, I think.
Actually,
Yeah,
the Canadian guidelines,
Yeah,
they have
that's
recommended
what,
oral iron. Recommend intravenous iron if there is no oral iron in the recommendation, Canadian
Yes.
guidelines. In
They are
American and
not
European
recommended. Yes,
guidelines,
that is true.
yes, one trial, that iron out trial,
It's a
lot
failure.
of side effects also, and there was no increase in the ferritin levels after 6
Yeah.
months of iron therapy. There was no improvement in the iron levels also, and
Thank
no
you.
improvement in the
Sometimes,
symptoms.
yeah, you have explained. Now, side effects. Second is the hepcidin.
Yes,
Hepcidin, yes.
sometimes what happens is in many clinical trials, some of the side effects might be significant, but in an individual given patient. So in the clinical trial data is cautioning us,
Yeah.
but it may not be completely truthful for all the patients we treat in the real world. So one can still believe in Canadian guidelines. If they have-
especially in our
Sure,
country.
sure, nothing wrong in that. That's what I'm saying. Not all patients are intolerant to medications. In the clinical trials, will definitely show intolerance to iron oral therapy. So in case you feel, but be ready to change and change to intravenous iron, rather kind of coaxing the patient to have a better quality of life.
Very
I
good
guess.
point, sir. Especially for our country.
Yeah, that's what.
1,000 rupees is
Yeah. Along with the whatever pillars are there, the treatment, we have to treat all the comorbidities. Then only I think the quality of life also will come down.
Yeah,
Thank you for the nice speech. Thanks.
There's one more question before we
So
go.
one question.
So, do you guys recommend screening in all HF patients for iron deficiency? My answer is yes. Anybody else?
repeat.
Do you guys recommend screening in all HF patients for iron deficiency
sir.
anemia? I think it should
Yeah,
be
it is
done.
diagnosis.
Yeah,
It is
it should
recommended
be
that
done.
iron study should be done and be
Yeah.
repeated on follow-up visits also, depending on the iron
Definitely.
levels. Yeah, European Society at the time of diagnosis of heart failure.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes, in Indian practices, people tend to put the cart before the horse. That means without investigations, without estimating therapy, as if, it is part of the treatment schedule.
Not be done.
That should be resisted. That should be resisted simply because, you will not be overloading patients with iron. This iron toxicity, if it is given over 24 weeks or 52 weeks.
Yes, sir.
And how did they come across
Just
the iron
like
Sir, in all the 3
apoptosis,
trials, that is
there is a ferroptosis, it seems. The iron toxic levels can kill the cells and even inflame.
actually less than 3,000 milligram iron.
Yeah.
There was no report of toxicity. Up to that level, we can go. Anyway, we will have to check iron values. And iron toxicity was not reported with the present day preparation.
Yeah,
I mean, that is the thing. And what they have said,
Yes.
cutoff, they have also put, including these line, the cutoff for ferritin is 800 nanogram per ml and transmitted IVR.
Yeah.
So there's the cutoff based on the experience and those studies, but based on the experience of these people, both from nephrologists and endocrinologists.
Yeah, you remember that, the hemolytic anemias like, that we commonly see where the transfusions are given on regular basis. Many patients.
Yeah, we have had few patients, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
one should be careful about iron replacement as a kind of routine prescription in our clinical practice. Make sure that the patients are not overloaded with iron. Thank you.
Cardiac cardiomyopathies, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Nagamani.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Nagamani.
Thank you, all my colleagues.
Thank
Good
you.
night, sir. Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you.